so excited to be here today, especially to talk on productivity, how to do all the things. As Miriam I mentioned, I am actually a people engineer. What I'm passionate about, what I love doing is helping solve people problems through processes and procedures that I learned through the engineering process, particularly through manufacturing. So if I throw in some Lean, Six Sigma, forgive me, that's kind of my nerd process mapping brain going to work. So we'll go ahead and just jump right in. First and foremost, we have a Slack going on. So even if you're watching this in the after show, I guess on YouTube, or the pre-recording that is already going to be going out after this is live, you can still jump in the Slack. I want to know who's all here. So if you're in the Slack, post, let me know where you at. If you can just give your name and kind of where you're joining from. You see my little hand over here on my slides. What's up? Again, as I said, my name is Brianne C. Martin, and I'm currently in Dallas, Texas. So I'm really excited to see who was all here. I know we had over 700 people attend, if not over 800, and that was just like 24 hours ago. So it's absolutely just phenomenal for all of us STEMinists and STEMers to all come together, learn together, and push the envelope. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. I'll be diving in those comments and be able to kind of give you guys shout outs and what's up with the rest of my STEMedia team here with the STEM Success Summit. And so I want to know, again, if you can shout out in the chat, so that way whenever we come back toward the questions at the end, I can answer them, make sure. As I mentioned, I'm an engineer, so if I know what my problem is up front, I can make sure I address it before we get to the end. So whenever you think of productivity, what kind of questions, what do you find is your biggest, weakest link, something that you're running up against? Maybe you run into the same issue over and over again. It may seem like a brick wall that you're hitting your head against, but let me know, again, in the Slack channel. Let's get those conversations going. Again, my STEMedia team is going to help me out, but we're going to make sure that we have these conversations so it's not just me talking here to you guys through the camera of this computer. So very much looking forward to being able to make sure I answer your questions before this is over with, and I'll still be able to access you guys in the Slack even after. So check it out. So as mentioned, I am an engineer. The reason I say that is because the way that we think is a very step-by-step process. So even as a different STEMmer, again, I think our critical thinking, just being able to be a trained learner of how to learn things is kind of the way we roll, right? So I have just pictures of me here in the field, in the shop, you know, creating my senior design project and like trying things out, because I'm a very trial and error type of learner. I'm hands-on. I can get the kind of concept stuff, but if I can't turn the wrench, if it's not a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey kind of thing, it doesn't really make sense to me. And so I'll get into a little bit why, if that's the importance, a little bit later. But we're going to overall, again, talk kind of the meat and potatoes and how you can use your everyday stemming mindset thinking to be able to solve your personal problems or your day-to-day issues that you run into in any kind of issue, again, whether it be work, your personal life, particularly productivity today. So I want to start out with the foundation, right? In all of engineering, we talk about like, you have to start from this like bare minimum. What are your controlled, you know, what is controlled first and foremost? And then like, what are your moving variables, right? What can change? What shouldn't change? What is something that is very unlikely to change or versus those that are? And so I want to start with the bare foundation of even just you as a person, right? What are your core values? So if you don't know, this is something that my mentor actually stumped me on when he said like, what's important to you? Like, what are your values? And right off the top of my head, I'm like, oh, you know, family, happiness, like money, you know, being important, that kind of stuff that just, you know, it's kind of ambiguous. But whenever you say, give me the words, like, what is it that's actually important to you? I kind of got a little stumped there. I was like, oh, that's a really good question. So I'm challenging you guys, right? What are your core values? And then even further further in that is what actually matters, right? So based on those core values that you hold, and I would challenge you to even just pick 3 or 4, maybe a 5 if you're a little, you know, still widening the range here, but what really matters from that. And so a lot of times, again, like this is just a big open question. So like, where do we even start? And so in starting coaching and even my own personal development, I found this, which is a life wheel. And you can just Google it. I'm actually going to have a whole workbook for you guys in the bonus material on the STEM Success Summit website. So make sure you check that out. You can fill it out. I actually have a lot of other things included that aren't covered in today's session that goes a lot with this foundation piece. But make sure that you're looking into your business, career, your finances, how are you health-wise, as well as like, what do you do for free, like in your free time, for fun, for your own just entertainment, as well as your physical environment. You know, do you like to be outside? Do you like smaller spaces? Do you like hate being in a room full of stuff and, you know, whatever it is? But this chart, you can actually start charting yourself and almost grading yourself. So on a scale of 1 to 10, for example, with business and career, where would you say that you feel? Are you wholeheartedly fulfilled, like you are in the job of your dreams? Or even again, like, are you currently in school? So your career, like you're just getting started and you're like, I'm excited. I love my major. I love what I'm doing. Or right now, like, it is not fun. I know that even when I was pursuing mechanical engineer, it was painful, and especially having to take calculus 2 a couple times, a few more other classes, acknowledging that I was putting the investment now, but I wasn't where I wanted to be or what I could be doing. And so again, just being honest with yourself. I'm going to be straight up with you guys today, like no sugarcoating. I'm not here to come for you, but I'm also here to make sure that we're honest with each other so we can help grow and be better. So again, feel free to check this out again in that bonus material. Even if you're just mentally kind of marking things down as to where you're at, where you would put yourself on the scale of all these different tabs, kind of gives you an idea of where to start as a basis. Moving on from that, now is actually a hierarchy of needs. And so now we're starting at the very, physiological needs. We need air, food, water, shelter, kind of these things to just continue to be living as a human. Then we take it a step level each time, right? Safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and then this self-actualization. And this is really important because as you keep going up the level, it's almost this type of, we have that opportunity to take it a step further and to deepen ourselves. And so even though some people may have, the house of their dreams and they're married with kids and you're just like, I'm supposed to be happy. What's going on? A lot of times we have these existential crises because we haven't taken the time to say, what is it that I value? What is it that my purpose is, or that I'm here to serve with whatever time, effort, energy I'm putting into it? And so again, like, we live for being able to create things, come up with things, solve problems. But if we get kind of caught up in this hamster wheel, if you will, we don't have a main reason or a driver as to why and what we're achieving, then we get very caught up in, again, kind of this mundane of being productive and doing things. And then you kind of get lost. You lose yourself, right? You just become a robot, and we're not robots. So again, slowing down to acknowledge what we do, why we do it, and this kind of hierarchy of needs to kind of really be fulfilled as a person, as a human, is kind of next level. So make sure that you're very aware of that. Again, I also have kind of questions that'll help cue you into these different tiers in that workbook, again, in the bonus material. So resources, again, totally engineering term, but what are we working with here, right? So first and foremost, I want everyone to realize you have the same amount of hours as Beyonce. And I know Beyonce is like Queen Bee. She's doing all the things all the time, but she has 24 hours in the day, just like you do. And so this is when we really start being able to think about, am I really on Beyonce level? Like, am I giving it my all? Am I taking time off to rest? Beyonce made this amazing documentary talking about, like, this took the life out of me, right? Like, I'm going to have to sleep for days, if not weeks after this. And so it's those type of things of being able to acknowledge, what level are you functioning at? And it's not that we always have to function 150%, but knowing different seasons of where you're at, what you're doing, kind of what style or what season of yourself you're bringing, either your A game, your B game, C game, heck, maybe even your D game sometimes, right? But acknowledging where you're at and what you're doing. Again, at the end of the day, you have the same amount of hours as Beyonce. The next thing is, too, you literally have the same physical needs as Elon Musk, right? So this guy who's innovating all the crazy cool things, taking things to the next level, kind of blowing our minds in what's possible, and so many other people, right? Just the way that our society has grown into what is norm. I was even talking to an Uber or Lyft driver about, like, we would have never thought we'd just be hopping in a car with strangers. And so there's so many of these creators, entrepreneurs, that they have the same physical needs. They need to sleep. They need a place to, they have to eat at some point. And, just simple things like that we don't think about. We see them almost as superhuman, but at the same time, like, they put on their pants the same way that we do. So it's not this kind of crazy notion that they're doing all the things. Granted, they may have a tad more resources or opportunities, but again, we can make it happen. All that to say that you have the power to make your dreams a reality, and you will never fail because you will refuse to never stop trying. And that's something I'd mentioned earlier about having to retake classes. And that's something super simple, right? Just in college, you're just trying to make it on the other side. And I tell people all the time, I happily registered, well, not happily, but I happily tell people that I registered for Calculus 2 5 times. I failed twice. I withdrew twice, and I finally passed the 5th time with a B. And that was like the last time. That was the straw. Like, I couldn't take any more classes. And it wasn't funny enough that I couldn't get the concepts of Calculus 2. I understood those perfectly. The hang up was the fact that I actually had so much life stuff happening when I was taking algebra in 8th grade, like honors math, that it just didn't retain well with me. Like, life was happening. There was no way I was going to be paying attention to school or have it sink in the way, my brain had normally done because of everything that was going on around me. So once I took a step back, I had an amazing, I believe, chair of our math department that actually sat down with me and did that analysis. He would go with me through problems. It's like, Brianne, like, you get the concepts. You're setting them up perfectly. Like, this is perfect. This is great. Where you're getting caught up is like simply just, solving for X. Like, this is where you can't just have X equal something. And so it was this kind of, weight lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was simply that my resources, one thing was off that couldn't get me to the next level. So be mindful of that. Let's keep it 100, right? So I say all of that story because at the end of the day, like, I called my mom crying the second time, right? I failed once and I withdrew the second time, then I tried again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't do this. Like, this is so hard. And like, this is what I want. Why does it have to be so difficult? And my mom said, Brianne, if it takes you 10 years to get your engineering degree, who cares? If it takes you 10 years, it takes you 10 years. Right. And so that's one thing, even with the resources and being real with yourself, like, what is it that you're really doing or that you're sacrificing? Because you can't take the good without taking the bad. And so there's always this balance. For actually 2019, my word of the year was dichotomy, is understanding that there always has to be some type of give and take. And you have to be willing to sacrifice something to get the things that you want. So we're going to keep it 100 here. I'm asking y'all to be real with yourselves. Don't be lying, because you're only going to hurt yourself if you're trying to skim the basis here from the very bare minimum. So I'll ask you guys, what do you spend the majority of your time doing? And I'm going to ask you guys again in the chat, in the Slack, go ahead and let me know, like, what is it that takes the most of your time? And I'm a mentor to several mentees. I help and coach people. And this is kind of what I usually get, right? Oh, Brianne, I'm at class, or I'm at work, maybe a little bit of both. I'm usually studying. And then, I barely have enough time to eat and sleep, right? And that's kind of the basic needs, especially on the hierarchy, right? Okay, you need to work, you got to go to school. I got it. But if you can be honest with me, what do you spend other time doing? Like, I know it's not all the time. I know it takes a lot of time, but in between, maybe that hour before you wake up, or that hour when you're waking up and you're just laying in bed, and for whatever reason, you actually woke up early with your alarm, but you just didn't get out of bed. Like, what do you spend time doing? I'll give you a couple seconds, because I know we're talking. And again, if you're watching this replay, let me know in the comments down in YouTube as well. But here's a quick guess. YouTube? Yeah, I know you subscribe. I know the things you've been watching. Netflix, Hulu, that new Disney Plus. Come on. Video games, scrolling through IG, Snap, TikTok, you name it, all the social media platforms. And that's okay, right? That's totally normal. What I'm going to say, though, is be honest, right? Because I'm not here to call you out. I'm not trying to, again, like, make you feel any type of way. I just want you guys to be aware that there is time in there, right? So whenever we talk about the same amount of hours that Beyonce has, how many hours are you spending watching your favorite shows or catching up on the newest thing? Even further, what are things you should be doing that you're probably not doing, and you always catch yourself, oh, I don't have enough time? Are you going to your office hours if you're still in school? Are you meeting with your professors? Are you going to tutoring? Or do you actually have time to review the notes you took during class? How about organization? How about those notes you took and you missed that one journal that one day, so you put it in the other notebook, but you never went back and transferred it? So when it came down to quiz day or test day, whatever reason, you just could not find that page of notes you needed? Yep, not gonna lie, that was me. As well as time with friends and family, whether or not you have a significant other, or just hanging out with your mom sometimes on a Sunday, or maybe your dad wants to take you to lunch on Wednesday, or your grandma or your Theo or whatever it is. They just want to spend time with you. If your cousin comes into town, you kind of have to account for that, right? A lot of times we don't put it on the calendar, but it starts dwindling down to our days, and then you're thinking, man, where did the day go? Cleaning your apartment or your dorm, that's something I know becomes like way long on the list. Even in college, I remember, like, I would have clothes and I just take them out of the dryer and put them next to me. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to fold them as soon as I wake up in the morning. And I just go to sleep with a pile of clothes beside me, because I was just beat for the day. Cooking, or even simply working out, right? These simple things where you buy groceries and then you're just throwing half of them away because you weren't even home long enough to cook or even make yourself a ham sandwich, much less fish sticks or something, right? So be mindful, because these are the things that we say we want to do. And it's not that we don't do it, but be very, again, conscious of what that looks like. And I say what that looks like because we only have limited amount of hours per day. And so with this, again, kind of a breakdown, just to give you a visualization of what that could look like. And this is only starting from 8 to 9, right? So for me, I wake up at 4:30 every morning. But you say, again, put in class. For those of you who work, sure, kind of like, 8 to 5. Then you add in meals. That's already starting to get a little bunched up, right? We don't have much time to do anything else. Then we add in downtime, right? Let's just say 8 to 9 o'clock. You're just like, I'm just tired. I deserve to watch a show. I deserve to, like, just sit on my couch and just chill for a minute. Then you add in actual homework, right? Stuff that's due, project times, again, for those that are working or in grad school. And so this overall becomes a very dense time, but as you can still see, there's still spaces. So make sure that you're accounting for things that you should be doing, what you're doing in those times, and how to help yourself be more productive moving forward with simply just doing this type of audit. So time management, this is super basic and simple, but a lot of times we don't even think about it. So just to put it in clear terms, again, very engineering of a definition form, is the ability to plan and control how someone spends the hours in a day to effectively accomplish their goals. This involves juggling time between domains of life, work, home, social hobbies, social life and hobbies, right? So kind of that wheel I showed you, right? It shows like what you're doing and how you're doing it, and sometimes even how well you're doing it. So if you feel like, man, I'm just not getting this time management thing, slow down, take a point to be able to start mapping this out, right? What are the things that are important to you? What are the things that you want to make sure is high on your priority list? And what things are you going to okay with be with slipping, right? So being able to do like a planner or a journal, a bullet journal is super helpful, even just to like write your thoughts out sometimes. Even doing up a Google Calendar, right? Just having it electronic anytime someone sends you something or a quiz is happening or your study group wants to meet up, you can just quickly put in your calendar and account for it rather than overbook yourself. Because I know that was something I had such a hard time with. Whenever you get kind of this ideal time frame, and it may be again that you leave different blinks open, but just kind of this is what my perfect week looks like. But if I could do all the things that I want to do that I know I need to do and save it as your desktop wallpaper, your phone screensaver, and review it daily. I cannot say this enough. I actually do this every week on Sundays, and we'll get a little bit more into like how you can help yourself, but make sure that you're reviewing it daily. Because if you don't remind yourself and put in front, like, these are the things I should be doing, these are the things I want to do, what's important to me, the next thing you know, like you wake up, right before class and you're rushing and you're like, trying to get here and you're trying to get there. And like just waking up in that type of environment has a huge negative impact. So I say fail as first attempt in learning. It's not going to be perfect and it's not going to be pretty the first time you try to do this, or even you start trying to remind yourself of the important things. And so be very graceful, be kind to yourself. The more that you start, the more that you start learning. So the sooner you start, the better. Right. And I just want to say that because people feel like, oh, I didn't do it, Brianne, or, man, I'm not good at this. And that's furthest thing from the truth. Right. You have to start somewhere. Even, trying to climb an entire flight of stairs, you have to just take one step at a time. And so you may stumble here or there. You may not even take the first step fully because you're just kind of like, oh man, this is too much for me, or it's a whole new level for you. But simply just starting these type of things makes a huge difference. So setting up systems, again, mechanical engineer here. So my brain is all about, gear ratios and how it all works together. So first and foremost, time blocking. This is something that blew my mind. Literally only do one thing. If it's going to be like answer emails, do not have your email open all day, every day. Isn't that crazy? Or even social media, turn off the notifications and you only can check it, I don't know, like that the last 2 minutes of every hour or whatever. But if you're like, or even that kind of, again, on this time of time blocking, you literally give yourself from like 7 to 8 p.m. Like that's my downtime. I'm going to be able to follow my fitness gurus or learn quotes of the day or check on what, cool memes STEMedia is posting. But being able to block that time out to only do that one thing. So you're not distracted. You're not doing a million things at once. And so that type of tasks, again, even as simple as email, is you only check your emails at specific times, because then that allows you to actually do the real work that you have to be able to get done, right? Work on the project, create that PowerPoint, do your homework, like you name it. So whenever you start blocking out your time, even if it's in 30-minute chunks or an hour chunks, give yourself that kind of, this is what I'm doing. I'm sitting down, I'm making myself go to the library. I'm sitting down in my living room. I'm opening this thermo book, whatever it is, do that one thing. No distractions. I would highly suggest putting your phone on airplane mode. And there's also apps that are like time blocking apps. So for me, I actually use like Take a Break, and it like won't let me get back in my phone after I set the timer unless I have to wait like a whole minute. And it really makes me contemplate my decision of breaking my time blocking. Another one is simply just auditing yourself. Again, I was in manufacturing, so it was always kind of continuous improvement. What am I doing good? What would I like to improve? And being able to do that. So every Sunday, like I said, I go through my process, or actually my process to review my progress. What did I do well? What did I not do so well? On some days I would wake up late. Thankfully, I have a Garmin, so it even tells me like, oh, you stayed in bed until this, you didn't start moving. And so that kind of thing where I would review the previous week, how I was doing, what happened. Maybe there was, something totally different, out of whack. My mom was visiting, you name it. And then what's the upcoming week? So then that way I can try to catch myself. So then being quite frank with yourself as you're doing this review, did your time reflect what was most important to you? And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow, right? Because Brianne, I'm doing all the things, I'm going to school and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, but did you really sit down and like binge watch 3 seasons? You mean of an episode or of a show, maybe the day before a quiz or the day before your test, because your parents took out these loans, you're taking out these loans, you're dedicating all this time and effort and energy into getting this degree, and yet for whatever reason, you're not being able to get it done, right? And so whatever you're thinking, however that's working, make sure that you're cognizant of it. Make sure to actually take a break. Like I said, that app that I use is just being able to have yourself not be able to do something different. So then reflect, right? How did you do? Was it good enough for your the way that you're thinking about things? Is there something more that you could have been doing? What can you do to set yourself up for success? What's the one thing that you can and will do to make your entire week a success? If you could just do one thing, I'll repeat that again. If you could just do one thing, what would it be to make your entire week successful? And then prioritize, right? So the top 3 most important things every day, every week, and every month. So really be cognizant again of what is your priorities, what is important to you, how can you make those happen? And then simply finding a way to say no also. I find myself that's very hard. I want to sign up for things. I want to help people. I want to just be excited and have fun. My friends invite me to go to the movies and like, oh yeah, absolutely. I've been waiting for this invitation or this new movie to come out. And it's one, you don't have to be rude about it, right? Guys, I have a quiz, or like, oh my gosh, how can you even invite me? You know how busy I am. But also like, don't make excuses, right? You don't have to say like, oh, well, I would love to, but the reality is like, you just tell them, hey guys, I appreciate the invitation, but I can't go. I have a quiz tomorrow, right? Like it is what it is. So don't feel like you have to feel bad about it or again, give excuses. Just say like, hey, I'm tired. Like it is what it is. Again, like, and I find myself giving excuses, right? Like I'm tired. It's not working. It's not a good day. Sometimes you just have to say no. If it doesn't align with again, what is your priority, then it should not happen, right? It's not on your calendar. You didn't account for it. Sometimes you account for those flexibility and sometimes you shouldn't. As well as just keep it simple, right? It doesn't have to be the super complex thing. Make sure that you're just keeping true to yourself, what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so we can kind of move on from there, right? Just keep it super simple. You don't want to get too complex on yourself. So make sure that you're doing it as much as you can. Another super simple thing you can actually do is straight up just set up a routine. So being able to just get a morning routine, how you start your day is super important. So whenever you start your morning routine, something as simple that I actually read in a book by Aubrey Marcus is getting light, water, and movement. And so whenever you start doing that, you have to give yourself time to wake up, right? Don't just roll out of bed and you're like, oh my God, I'm like throwing on clothes and trying to get all over the place and like rush out the door. And so you want to make sure that you're supporting yourself and giving yourself time to wake up. Your body needs water. It's just been dehydrated for 8-9 hours. Hopefully, if you got enough time to sleep, as well as like getting that light. You have to, something in that light tells your body, right? Biologically, and I'm sure all those anatomy studiers there is going to help me out here. But acknowledging that the light is like the natural alarm clock to your body, saying, okay, we're ready to go. Let's get things going. And then simply just moving your body. Something that I kind of laugh is I like just enjoy dancing while brushing my teeth. And I'll play my favorite, cumbia or merengue song just because it's upbeat, gets my heart rate going. And, you want to make sure that you're getting that going. So being able to simply do that in your morning routine makes a huge difference. No snoozing. Again, get your routine going and you'll see like a night and day difference. So then the next thing is a night routine. And that's that's something that we actually don't talk about too often, is giving yourself time to wind down. Like we'll just like, oh, I'll run until like I hit a brick wall and I'm exhausted. Well, in reality, you want to give your body time to shut down. I myself actually struggle with anxiety. So not being able to stop my mind is my current struggle. And so being able to just give myself time, turn my electronics off, like I don't take my laptop to bed. I don't take my phone to bed, turn off all the lights, put on a candle, like read a book, something just super simple and like slow to kind of pull yourself down. This is a time to listen to music, to not do anything, to just really allow yourself time to decompress. No heavy foods, again, like your body's trying to process if you eat right before you go to sleep, as well as just, again, give yourself a reasonable amount of time. Go to bed at a reasonable time. Trying to go to sleep at 1 o'clock when you have an 8 a.m. class isn't going to work too well. And so make sure that you're very cognizant, again, and planning accordingly. We should always make sure we try to get as much sleep as we can, right? It's suggested is 7 to 8 hours. So make sure that you're following accordingly and being very aware of it, again, per your schedule. What does a perfect day look like? And then make time for fun. Like I said, simply just listening to music that gets me going and like gets me in a really good mood. That's my thing. So what brings you joy? Again, I'm asking all these questions because this is for you. This isn't for me. I've done all this work. I'm just sharing it because I wish this is something someone would have shared with me when I was in college or even an early young professional, because I had to figure it out the hard way. And I ran myself into the wall, ran into so many issues. And again, I read all kinds of books, got all kinds of coaching and help and support with this. And even my mentors had said, yeah, Brianne, like, something as simple as having a routine makes a huge difference. Even yesterday, I was like in the worst mood. I was not feeling well at all. And, my fiance came home and said, hey, would you mind just dancing with me? Like, I just need to do something. I just need to like get it out of my system, right? Being moved a little bit, having fun, being twirled around, that like makes, lifts my spirits. So making sure that we do that type of thing is a lot of fun. And again, adds to your routine. And so overall, again, kind of the review of setting up these systems, doing something like time blocking, auditing yourself every Sunday or pick a day of the week, whatever works best for you. Look at the previous one as well as the upcoming. What does your time reflect? That's important to you, because what you're saying is one thing, what you may be doing is another. So be very conscious of that and call yourself out on it, right? Just, almost give yourself grades. Hey, you know what, right? This week, I'd probably give myself a C. Oh, you know what? I did an A this week. I was all on it. As well as prioritize, right? What are those 3 most important things every day, every week, every month? And again, just get into this routine. The more that you do things, the more kind of second nature it becomes, and you don't have to think about it. So whenever you wake up and you get that water and you get some kind of light, some kind of movement going, it becomes this fun thing to wake up rather than dreading like, oh, I don't have to wake up in the morning, or oh, I don't want to have to go to class. You get fun. It's like exciting and invigorating, as well as that night routine. It really helps you to kind of actually go to sleep when it's time to go to sleep. So what it looks like in real life. These are some things that I do that, again, my perfect day looks like. And I just kind of have it on a whiteboard. I'm actually looking at it right now. That reminds me every single day. It's a perfect day when I can wake up and I give myself that time, right? Water, light, movement. And then I journal for 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I even take it a step further and say, like, this is what I'm currently feeling. This is what's going on. This is my current situation. This is kind of the battle I'm going through, or this is the recent growth opportunity. As well as a vision, right? So for me, like my dream car is to own, or my dream is to own a Maserati. And so that's my vision. And so I start writing like as if it's in the future, but I write it now. And so it's, like I'm driving my Maserati, to go pick up Starbucks. I'm excited because I'm going for a morning run. I'm taking my bike because I'm, doing an Ironman, next weekend. And I'm just kind of envisioning myself in the most successful, happiest version of myself that brings me the utmost joy. And so when I start, kind of creating that vision in my head, I actually played sports. So my mom would say, like, you can't make the basket if you don't see yourself making the basket, right? So even simply just being on the free throw line, getting ready to throw a free throw, like I needed to see it in order to like actually know I was capable of doing it, right? And that's something that a lot of us, especially people of color in STEM, say like that's something I don't deserve, or we get laughed at, when we say, oh, I want to drive a Hummer, or oh, I want to have this, really nice house or whatever. And so it's that something that simple of even just giving ourselves the visual support of knowing that we can do it starts making a difference. We start telling our brains, this is what we're doing, this is what we're shooting for. Working out, meditating. I really enjoy learning Spanish. I'm not the greatest yet, but like I'm working on it. So being able to like, whether it be Spanish through an app, watching, YouTube videos, podcasts, you name it, any type of music. So I love playing guitar, piano, singing. I recently, because I travel so much, carry a harmonica with me. And so it's something that simple of just making it readily available, as well as reading. I really enjoy like hard books that I can read, or even audiobooks, because I travel so much, of just popping in and learning, being able to grow, hearing different stories, autobiographies. There's so much to learn, and I'm a nerd for learning. So like, why not? I'll take it. Then being able to go outside, like just being around leaves, taking in fresh air makes such a huge difference. Being able to dance as well, like I mentioned earlier. I mean, anytime you ever see me on the dance floor, I'm like beaming and smiling, because it just brings me so much joy. And now I'm like smiling just thinking about dancing. So the next step is simply just know yourself, right? So being able to know thyself. First and foremost, being able to set up these things to help you be successful. How do you concentrate? How do you learn? And then what time of day? So are you better at learning by yourself, or are you better at like studying with a group? Even at work, this is something that a lot of times people don't think about. But if you're like working in a work setting and you're in a cube with a bunch of people and they're constantly talking, and like that's not where you thrive. That was something that was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to focus. And so I would like take earplugs and like literally plug them in my ears. I would put up almost these like folders on the side. And so like I couldn't see anything, do anything, because that's how I focused. So even in industry, being a manufacturing engineer, an advanced manufacturing engineer, where I had so many people that needed me, wanted me, I had to really focus on my projects. Like I would just put up this like little fort in my cube, because so many people would be talking and making side conversations, or like stopping by my desk. And so I would almost put like a little tag, like, if you need me, like I'm working on this. Because otherwise it was just so hard for me to focus. Do you function really well like in a messy area? Maybe if it's too clean, like you just feel like, oh my gosh, I can't touch anything. I'm afraid to like write on a piece of paper. Or, do you need it clean? If there's a mess everywhere, you're like, oh my God, I feel like I need to clean before I can even do anything. Do you prefer music or no music? Something for me is I actually can't do music with words, because I start like singing along. Or even music with multiple instruments, because of the musician in me. I start picking up like, oh, they're like doing this offbeat thing, or oh, they're doing harmonics or whatever, totally different. So make sure that again, what type of environment even helps you concentrate. How do you learn? Again, audio, visual, hands-on. There's several other ways, but knowing what works best for you, as well as like what time of day. A lot of times as we feel, you read these, what the top things to do, or what the 10 richest people in the world do, and most of it is wake up at 4 a.m. and only wear one gray t-shirt, and they buy it 10 times over. But it's these things that actually have to work for you. So again, acknowledging that if you're a morning person, like wake up and do work, right? If you're an afternoon person, like give yourself time. Don't try to push yourself into having to be a morning person if you actually do your best work in the afternoon, right? Plan accordingly. The more that you pay attention and the more self-aware you are, the more successful and more productive you can be, because you're working within what you're given, right? You can only work with the cards that you're dealt. So work with it, as well as the evening too. If you're a night out, own it and do it, right? But make sure that you're very conscious to not sign up for a morning class or take a morning shift at work, early morning, or whatever that looks like. But again, making sure that you're working through that. Humans are complex creatures. So first and foremost, do not beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. Be patient. Simply just learn how you work and what works best for you. And again, this is very trial and error. I myself have done it, tried different things. And once you kind of find the rhythm, you'll notice again in how you're actually more productive, how you enjoy doing maybe the things that you didn't enjoy as much, or being able to do those things that you don't enjoy as much faster and sooner, so you can get onto the things that you actually do enjoy. So again, we're here in the Slack channel. If you have any kind of questions, I'm going to cut to those really quickly. But before we do, I wanted to kind of give you guys a shout out of acknowledging that this is all a development process. It's not going to happen overnight. Make sure that you are very patient with yourself Everything I just covered was all personal, professional, and just growth development in general. This is the stuff I nerd out about. Again, I'm constantly about constant improvement. Like, again, the lean manufacturing. How do we get to the next level? How do we level up? What resources do we have to make us all be much more successful, as well as organizations, right? So, SHIP, as well as NSBE, as well as ASCE, ASME, and IEEE, right? So I'm an engineer, so I know about, again, the Hispanic engineers, Black engineers, women engineers. There's so many other organizations as well. But making sure that you're very conscious of this, because there are groups that help you to do these type of development opportunities. Making sure that you have the technical side as well, right? So ASCE is the civil engineering org, ASME, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. And again, if you're biomed, you name it, biologists, like anyone, everyone, for the majority of the bar, because I don't even know, maybe some don't have gloves, but it's something as simple as you could start, again, either at your place of work, maybe as a hobby group, as a club group on campus. So there's so many different ways where you can just join forces. Again, hey, I'm in this study group. Hey, would you mind tutoring me here? And these organizations have been, like I said, just phenomenal. They have all kinds of committees, focus groups, but people that you can really turn to and ask for help for. So with that, I know we're coming up really closely, but feel free if this was something of interest. I hope this was super helpful. Again, like I said, it took me years to learn this kind of stuff and plenty of books and opportunities, but you can connect with me. And so this type of thing, you can find me at brianneCmartin.com. Anywhere on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, just again, Google Brianne C. Martin. As earlier mentioned, I go by the people engineer. So I created a whole brand on just being able to nerd out and help solve people problems, because this is my passion. This is what I'm excited about. I was so, I guess, relieved when I started being able to solve my own problems. And so it was absolutely phenomenal. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump in, really questions. But if there's anything more that you guys want, I do have a podcast I wanted to let you guys know about. You can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything that has a podcast, you can be on there. So I just turned my phone back on, and I'm going to jump in for questions. So really excited. Again, I hope this was helpful. And let's see what kind of questions we got going on in here.